Hello, 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 everyone, and welcome to a very special IOCDF Faith and OCD Roundtable where we are, of course, going to be chatting about faith, OCD, and all of the things, but we're also going to be chatting about the upcoming Faith and OCD conference and giving you a little bit of a sneak peek because we are all folks here who are incredibly excited about that conference and who want to share that time with you. So as folks come in, feel free to say hello, tell us where you're watching from. I see Spence from Houston, so good to see you, but would love to hear from folks and hear where you're joining us from. As folks come in, I always like to start with kind of a little fun question when we have a panel here. So and folks in the chat, of course, can join in with this too, but I would love to, it is fall now. It is officially fall. You can see I'm wearing ghost earrings with ghosts that are reading little pink books, actually, that Emily helped me pick out last weekend. Love fall, love Halloween. I'd love to hear from our panelists here. What do you like the best about fall? Because fall is here, y'all. So I'm gonna go over to Emily first, because I know she loves fall. So
I do love fall. What do I like the most about fall? I feel like I like everything. I don't know that I can pick one thing. I really like Hocus Pocus. Like, I just love that movie. It just gives me like warm fuzzies inside because it reminds me of childhood. But s'mores. No, Katie, you knew what I was gonna say. S'mores. I love having a bonfire and s'mores and roasting marshmallows. That's like my absolute favorite.
I love that. As folks come in, we would love to hear from you. If you have something that you like about fall or that you love about fall, what your favorite thing is. My most recent favorite adult memory, which sounds really, really awful, was actually being with Emily when she was eating a s'more and she looked like she was about 7 years old. She was so excited. She was making the perfect s'more over the fire. She brought it to put on her graham cracker and the stick her marshmallow was on broke. And she watched it drop to the ground and you could hear the splat. And her face just, I don't think I have seen anybody.
I was devastated.
She was devastated. She was absolutely devastated. She was able to make a new marshmallow, but I was like, I was with an elementary school child who someone had just stepped on their ice cream cone, and it was very sad. But it's okay, we prevailed. So I'm going to go over to Val. Val, we'd love to hear about your favorite fall thing.
I love the rain, especially being in California. You know, we had that Indian summer, that lingering summer. So we had a few days of rain a couple of days ago, but I love like when it really rains and I'll sit by the window, read a book, good cup of coffee or cocoa, and just I love the smell, the feel, the whole thing. And on some days I'll go outside and sit on the porch and really, really get all those elements. But I love the rain. Long as I'm not in it.
That reminds me of Ethan in the outdoors. He always says he loves looking at the outdoors from the indoors.
That makes sense.
But I love that. And just the smell. Love that, Val. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And Carolyn, would love to hear from you. What do you love about fall?
Well, we really don't have fall here in Orlando, Florida. So we switch our white flip-flops for brown. That's what the one thing we do. So different color flip-flops for the fall colors. But I have a lot of pumpkin candles that are lit at this point in my house because I have to have this fall smells, even though the pumpkins actually, the first year I moved here, I didn't realize like the pumpkins disintegrate when you put them outside. I'm like, the humidity is so bad that they fall apart. And so we put the pumpkin out 2 days before the trick-or-treating. And we wear always short sleeve costumes, never long sleeve. So, but I love it. I have the pumpkin smell and I have my iced pumpkin spice, not hot iced. So it's good. That's what I love about fall.
I love it. You embrace the fall even in Orlando. So I appreciate that, Carolyn. Thank you. Well, as folks come in again, feel free to tell us hello and where you're watching from. I see Spence here, I see Phyllis here, and we're looking forward to having others watching with us live or watching with us later on. I do want to note, as we officially jump in post our fall and Halloween talk, that this live stream is educational and is not intended to replace therapy. For treatment-related questions, please work with your provider or contact a local clinician. You can, of course, use the IOCDF's online resource directory at iocdf.org/find-help to locate a trained clinician near you. That is an awesome resource if you haven't checked it out already. We also want to note that the International OCD Foundation is not a crisis hotline. If you're in a crisis or if you're ever feeling suicidal or unsafe, please go to your local emergency room or call 911 or the 988 Suicide and Crisis Lifeline by dialing 988. You can also access online at www.988lifeline.org. And finally, we want to create a safe space for absolutely everyone. We want to be kind and respectful as we're here on this stream, recognizing that even in showing up here with us tonight, you are advocating as such an important part of this community. And at the end of the day, we're all here to support one another. So we do want to note that this is being broadcast on several social media platforms and is being recorded. So please keep that in mind as you comment and as you offer support and love to everyone around you. And again, so glad to see folks in the chat, and welcome, Christopher. So glad to see you too. I want to jump in and really begin by asking everyone here to just share a little bit about themselves. I think we have a star-studded panel here with Val, Emily, and Carolyn, but would love to hear a little bit about each of you and why faith and OCD is important to you, but specifically the Faith and OCD Conference, why this is something that you care about. I want to go ahead and highlight, this is the 5th year of the Faith and OCD Conference coming up, year 5, y'all. This is super, super cool. And I want to start with Val, because really this conference comes out of Val's vision for this conference and something that that she saw such a huge need for. And I really believe that we wouldn't be sitting here doing this work without the amazing Valerie Andrews. So Val, would love to hear a little bit about you and your vision for this and why the conference is important to you.
Oh, thank you. I think for me, it was so important because being a person of faith who loves the Lord, I was really struggling with my OCD when it came to my spiritual being, and just being in the pews and all and feeling so alone and so misunderstood. And I knew that there was power if we had a group of people that were all on the same page. And, I couldn't have been feeling this way by myself. So that was kind of where the thought process came from. I just really needed my faith community to really understand and embrace me. And I really needed to feel like I was part of the flock. So that's kind of how the vision, got started. And I just love the fact now that we're 5 years in. It's beyond my expectations. I can't thank Katie and the rest of the crew enough for really taking my vision, my idea, and birthing it. I always say Katie's my baby's mama. Yeah, but yeah, it was just, a personal need and a personal desire.
Thank you, Val. I get kind of teary every time you talk about that, because I just think it was such a dual. The first conference 5 years ago, Val and I, together talking about her vision with a team of folks, and it was such a small group of us then. And I think it's just so grown. And see Phyllis saying she has so much respect for Val. Val, we just love you. We wouldn't be doing this work. And I'll say, I wouldn't be doing this work without you. So just thankful for you and for that. And Stacy, who just came in, we're talking tonight about faith and OCD and the upcoming Faith and OCD Conference. So we're going to chat a little bit about the conference, but we're also going to answer questions about faith, OCD, scrupulosity, and all of the things. And also welcome to Molly and to Mary. So glad y'all are here. As we transition from the amazing Val, who really kind of brought us all into this space, want to transition over to Emily, who's been really a crucial part of this conference the last few years. And as a clinical psychologist who specializes in scrupulosity. So if you can share a little bit about you and why this conference is meaningful as a part of the work that you do.
Yeah. Gosh, I saw such a need for something like this faith and OCD conference, because for so many people in my experience as a clinical psychologist, faith isn't just something somebody does. It's part of who they are. And I think OCD often latches onto that really important part of someone's identity. And it can twist this like genuine love and devotion into something that's just fueled by fear and guilt. And it was so neat at this conference. And it made so many of my patients feel normal, like understood. And I think that's beautiful, because for so long, people either A, misunderstood them, right? And thought they were just genuinely devoted when in reality it was OCD. Or they, felt like an outsider in every aspect. So that's why I love, number one, what I do, but number two, this conference, is it just offers this opportunity to normalize this experience and have a community, truly.
No, thank you, Emily. And thank you for being, again, such an important part of this and a part of really our planning subcommittee this year, doing a lot of the work that folks don't see behind the scenes of sending emails and doing all of sometimes that tireless, thankless work that really makes this come together. So just thank you for advocating in that way. And I know. And then we have Carolyn over here, who is an awesome clinician now in the OCD space, who was advocating with us when this conference really, really started, and has really come into just such awesome work around scrupulosity. And Carolyn, would love to hear about your work and why this conference is important, and especially this year, because you're leading the Faith and OCD SIG for the IOCDF.
Yeah, I think that ultimately it's important to me because I'm an individual who struggles with scrupulosity myself. And that's how I came to know Val and Katie and Emily through just my own being an individual that has OCD and scrupulosity OCD specifically. I also think it was something I struggled with in my own treatment, feeling like there was this dichotomy between two worlds. There was the clinical psychology world, and then there was like my faith leaders world. And I felt like actually each camp felt skeptical of the other. And I was really desperate to have like some unity in this and feel like that my faith leader would understand what I'm doing in therapy, and then have my therapist understood how important my faith was to me in a way that we could do exposures to honor my faith. And so it's a passion of mine to do this, and it's my favorite subtype of OCD to treat, because it's one very dear to my heart to see people that really struggle in silence, like Val said, in the pew, and are in all different types of faith, are feeling misunderstood and feel like they're the only one. And a lot of them, like myself, felt like it was just a spiritual problem. So having some hope on this and that there's treatment for this is really something I'm so excited about. So
thank you, Carolyn, for your work and your advocacy and your work now as a clinician. And I love what you just brought up. And I think this is one of, from the beginning, the things that we really wanted folks to know through this conference, that this is not a spiritual problem. Any form that OCD takes, it's not a spiritual issue. It's an OCD issue. And yet folks can engage in evidence-based treatment that's very much life-saving while engaging in their faith communities, that these two things aren't mutually exclusive. They can fit together. And that's really kind of what this conference is all about, bringing together individuals with OCD across beautifully diverse faith backgrounds, together with clinicians and faith leaders from every different type of experience, to have these really important conversations. So we want to tonight give you a little sneak peek into some of those conversations, and then we'll loop back to some conference nitty gritty logistics and some sneak peeks on what you're going to see. But I do want to ask this group a little bit about faith and OCD and why this is so important. And of course, folks who are watching, if you have questions about faith, OCD, scrupulosity, or anything else, feel free to chime in the chat too. But Emily, I want to start with you with this of, why do you think it's important just in general to have conversations around faith and OCD? And what are some of the things that are often misunderstood about this intersection?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think the reason that this is so misunderstood is because it's actually not talked about enough. I would love to talk about this all day, every day. Like, I wish we could just talk. Actually, not tonight. I'm hungry. But in general, I would love to be able to talk so much more about this. I think it's so needed because many people outside of the clinical world assume that scrupulosity is just being ultra religious. And it's not about that. It's not about faith. It's actually about anxiety. It's about distress. It's about uncertainty. And that's what I think the biggest misunderstanding just in the general world is that like this is being too religious. No. This is something a little bit more. It's actually distressing. I think people downplay the impact that it sometimes has on people. So that's what I would say is that there's a misconception that it's just all about being too religious or too devout. And there's something underlying that's missing when that's communicated just in the general population.
No, thank you so much, Emily. I think that's so important, and scrupulosity is so misunderstood. And I want to bring Val in too, because Val, you do such a great job of highlighting that these faith and OCD conversations aren't just about scrupulosity. There's a lot of other things there too. And want to hear from you. Why is it important to have conversations around faith and OCD? And what are some of the things that you see as misunderstood or that you've experienced as being misunderstood?
Well, I certainly agree with Emily. I think part of it is because, especially within certain communities of faith, it still remains a taboo conversation. You know, you don't even want to talk about it, but that doesn't get us anywhere. You know, so much of what I learned traditionally growing up within the body of Christ, I understand why I grew up in a culture that was like, whatever you say stays in your house regardless. And I get it now as an adult, because for so many of us, it probably meant safety, you know, back in the day. So I understand that, but it seems like we're still stuck there, that we're afraid to even say the word mental illness or OCD. And until we get that conversation started, it doesn't change anything. We're still in the same spot. And that's why
Oh no, Val froze.
there you go to our faith leaders first.
Oh, hold on,
You know,
Val, you froze. Can I get you to go back? And you said, and that's why, and then you froze. And we were like waiting.
I was going to say, that's why statistics show that we go to our faith community, our leaders first. And if they're not receptive, where does that leave us? It kind of leaves us on our own. And so I think it's so important that for me, my number one resource has always been my faith. So if I don't have that little section first to go to, I'm still going to be stuck in that same old spot. And like I said, we simply got to start the conversation if we're going to change anything and not be afraid of it.
Absolutely. Well, and as a follow-up, Val, you're doing such awesome work actually in churches right now, doing trainings and things like that and working on the ground. I think sometimes folks are scared to start the conversation, and they're scared there's going to be pushback. And what is that going to look like? What has it been like to actually be in those conversations? What's the response?
It's been a little bit of pushback, but I think it goes to the misinformation, the understanding, because I know when I got my diagnosis, I remember telling the therapist or thinking in my head, don't she know I don't wash my hands and I got mail all over my table? Because those were the only two components that I associated it with. So I think too, so many people within the community of faith still see it as a spiritual, mental, we can get over it kind of thing. And that's not true. So I think it's a lot of that misunderstanding, a lot of tradition, a lot of fear, a lot of stuck on this side of the line. I'll often talk about that us versus them kind of attitude, and all of that does not serve anybody, because I tell them I live in two communities, the communities of faith and community of OCD, and neither one of us are going anywhere. So how, as a Christian, can we both serve each other? You're still my brother's keeper. I always say that. And likewise, but in order to be my brother's keeper, you have to know what I need, you to pray for or to work with me for. And so that's why I think there's just plain misunderstanding and not knowledge and stuck in a whole bunch of old traditions.
Oh, thank you for that, Val. Thank you. Thank you. And there's such cool opportunity like at the upcoming conference for us to get to have some really beautiful conversations and increase understanding. And that's why we want you all to be there and to invite your friends and your pastor and your rabbi and your imam. And we want everyone to be there. And OCDI alumni, we love you too. I think I know who it is behind the account. And we think you're awesome and love you. And Phyllis, what you're talking about is so common. It's so hard sometimes to tease out faith from OCD. And I always like to go back and say, we know OCD latches on to the things that are the most important to us and twists and turns it. So of course that's going to happen with faith, where it is going to take something so meaningful and make it really hard to separate out, well, what is my meaningful faith versus what is OCD turning into this spiral of fear and guilt and shame and anxiety. But I love that you've learned beautiful things about grace, spiritual freedom, and love. And I think that really can come through treatment, which is super cool that in and of itself can be so spiritual. Yeah, go ahead, Val.
Yeah, I meant to tell when you were asking me the question, I did get pushback, but also I got a lot of interest, a lot of I want to know about it, a lot of love. And I've been on both extremes. And I was telling before we started off, I gave my first workshop at the church on Saturday, and it was so well received. There were so many questions, so many I thought ofs, or I thought it was this. And I just really felt the love and being embraced. And I think, especially with younger communities, they're really dying. I shouldn't say dying. They're really interested in learning more. So I've been on both ends, but I can kind of see the tide moving a little bit more toward people just simply wanting to learn and to embrace. So I didn't want to just leave that negative thought floating around.
No, Val, I love that you added that. And I'll say that's been so much of my experience too. These last few years, a lot of my work is educating clinicians on the faith side, but also educating clergy on OCD. And there have been spaces that I've walked into where I've been like, okay, I don't know what this is going to look like. I don't know how this is going to be received. And 9 times out of 10, it's been really positive, and it's been people really wanting to learn. I'm starting to do some seminary teaching for graduate students who are becoming ministers on OCD and scrupulosity. And that was something I never thought would happen. And in doing a lot of that, I was wondering, what is the response to this going to be? And it's been really positive. It's been students reaching out who are going to be clergy saying like, ooh, I think I might have seen this in my internship, and how can I respond as a minister? And what does this look like? And just so cool to get to start the conversations. Carolyn, I know you have thoughts about this too, so I would love to hear from you. Why is it important to have conversations about faith and OCD, and what are some of the misconceptions that you've seen?
I think because, I was apologetics major in college, and that is the worst for if you have OCD and you don't know you have OCD. So you're reading all of this evidence for your own faith and trying to think, oh man, this is really going to help me have, a good, strong belief system here and be confident about my faith, which all it did for me is produce even more doubts. And so I'm really passionate about the fact that I had a misconception that having a faith and believing certain doctrines from different holy books, whatever your faith tradition is I believe that you have to be sure of those things, and you have to be confident in the truth of those things. And I did not have any of that. I had lots of doubt, and I felt like that's where I felt like it was a spiritual problem and didn't know what was wrong. And so I'm very passionate about this topic for people that feel plagued with, I call it the holy trinity of OCD, which is fear, doubt, and shame. And so, or you could do fear, guilt, and shame as well. So I think that if those are what your drivers are for your faith, then that's not something that we really want to be in the driver's seat. So I'm very passionate about what Katie talks about, that faith is not certainty. Faith is moving forward through uncertainty towards the things that you value. And that is defined by each different faith tradition in a different way, and for each person in that tradition. And so I'm very passionate about this concept of like faith not having assurance about everything. And people feel very confident about their faith beliefs. And when we over here don't feel confidence, we worry, what's wrong with me? And we might have the doubting disease and can still walk according to our values, even when we're not feeling a certain way. So that's really something I'm passionate about.
I love everything you said. And I very much am right there too of faith is not about certainty. And really through treatment, we can reconnect with our faith or connect with our faith even more fully. And that's, I always talk about, really treatment is the ultimate spiritual practice of taking this big, giant leap of faith. But I also love the Trinity piece that you used. What did you said? Guilt, shame, and doubt. Am I getting, wait.
Yeah, I usually say like fear, guilt, and shame, or fear, doubt, and shame. But there's usually guilt, shame, there's fear. And like, those are the things that typically I see that keeps scrupulosity alive, right? It's those things that we do things because we're afraid of feeling guilty. We do things because we're afraid of judgment. We do things because we feel ashamed of something. We feel like we have to pay penance for something we maybe accidentally did that we didn't remember that we did, you know? And so that's the level of the shame. And it's like, is that the driver for our faith now? I also felt like my faith itself was a safety-seeking behavior. Like, if you can find a compulsion as something that is a safety-seeking behavior, either mentally or physically, then I felt like my faith itself was all about making sure I was safe from sort of an eternal bad place to go to. And I was like, I don't want my faith to be driven by this trying to be safe. I want my faith to be driven by something that's greater, a love for the divine, a love for others, and a willing to take a risk for some of those things. And it's not about being safe. And so I think if we can change the motivation behind faith, and like Katie said, redefine it as an ability to move through uncertainty towards our important values, then we have a really chance of not only like getting better, but I would argue, like Jonathan Grayson said, like being even better than normal, because you're able to embrace the risk and uncertainty that comes with just life in general.
Yeah, 10,000%. It's like we can be so close to our faith, close to the divine, or just close to the life that we want to live and that's meaningful to us. I think, you know, I also was really drawn to the Trinity piece you said, because it's so, I've never heard you say that. And it's so interesting because I say something on the other side, which is I always talk about the Trinity of recovery. And I always say that relates to faith in yourself, faith in your treatment, and faith in something beyond yourself, which for some people is God or the divine, or really something bigger than them. It might be their values. And I think all of that, it's so interesting. It's like the antidote to all of that fear, guilt, shame, all of the stuff that comes up. So we get to step into that uncertainty in beautiful ways. I would love to kind of go off of what Carolyn just said. This wasn't really going to be my next question, but I think this is really awesome with the faith and uncertainty piece. And Kimberly, I thought it was you, Kimberly. I just didn't want to say Kimberly if you didn't want people to know that it was you. So I was trying to be, I was the one being cryptic, not you, but that's okay. And Phyllis, thank you also for noting that. That's a big thing that we're going to be talking about at the conference as well. The fear of the unpardonable sin is so common for so many in the Christian faith. And we're going to be talking about fears that really come up for those in the Christian faith, but also in the Muslim faith and the Jewish faith. And there's some kind of really core ones. And this is one that I will say I talk about with folks each and every day. And there is so much hope for stepping through this. There really is. And along that line, I want to go over actually to Emily and ask about this whole faith and uncertainty piece. Like, how do you separate out? I mean, how do you talk about faith, certainty, uncertainty, all of the things? Because I think people have a really tough time with faith not being about certainty.
Yeah, I mean, do we have hours? No, I mean,
Yeah, sorry. Rachel behind the scenes. We're gonna be here for the next 5 hours while Emily explains this to us.
yeah, I mean, I think it's so important that we lean into uncertainty in so many aspects, no matter what our subtype is. Like talking about scrupulosity, not talking about scrupulosity, but a lot of faith is truly trusting and believing not only in God, but yourself. And not being necessarily sure of every single step you're going to take, right? Not necessarily knowing what the outcome is going to be, but trusting the process. Not knowing for sure, but trusting the process. And I think uncertainty can feel so intangible, so abstract. And whenever I talk about it, it's like, what if we just took one step forward and tried to trust God? How would that look different? What's like one little step forward and trusting ourselves just a little bit? Because I think uncertainty can feel really overwhelming. Like uncertainty, I can't be uncertain. This is my entire like life and afterlife. What do I do? And I understand that is terrifying. But what's one step that we can take forward? Not knowing everything. We're not meant to know everything. That is faith in and of itself. We have to trust in something higher than us, trust in ourselves that we're taking a step in the right direction. And sometimes that's even trusting treatment, not knowing for sure if it's going to work, but trusting the process. And I think, none of us are God. None of us can play God. And we were never promised to know everything. And I think that's a big piece of it too, that we weren't promised this, but part of our religion calls us to trust. I don't know how other people would explain it. I think I talk a lot about uncertainty no matter what religion, or no matter what subtype. But I don't know how other people explain it, because sometimes it's really tricky where we lean into uncertainty every day. Like anything can happen at any point in the day. And we find a way to trust ourselves in the process. Faith makes it feel tricky and bigger. I don't know if anyone else explains it differently.
Yeah, either Val or Carolyn, do either of you have any thoughts on this that you want to jump in with?
Yeah, I always talk about this in the sense that certainty is actually a feeling, and that certainty is a luxury. It's not something that we have to move forward, and that we can take OCD wants to keep us still and spinning. It doesn't want us to move. And so I say, like, we can't control the first thoughts that are coming to our mind, but we can control where we put our feet, right? And so if we can move forward, instead of OCD wants to keep us spinning, trying to get certainty before we move, we have to say we don't have to have a feeling before I can make an action. And I think a lot of people have, they don't realize, like you said, Emily, they feel fine about sitting in a chair or driving a car. But when it comes to things that, like Katie said, things that really matter to us is where OCD is going to go after. Okay. So we have the ability, we do it all the time, we might feel more certain about something, but that doesn't mean we actually really are. Right. And so it's a nice feeling to have. Right. And that goes with relationship OCD or contamination OCD. It's a nice feeling to have, but it's not required for movement, of like forward movement. And so, and sometimes I say, if you shoot for movement, sometimes feelings are thrown in there as a luxury. But if you shoot for the feeling, you're not going to move at all. And you're probably not getting the feeling either. And so it's kind of like, shoot for doing something, and maybe you'll get some feelings every now and then. Right. But like feelings, they are just so unreliable, and they come and go, and we can't try to chase after them. As soon as we start chasing after them, when we're never going to get it. So
I love that. And sorry, Katie,
No, go ahead.
No. I just love this like behavioral piece. Like we can wait and wait and wait, and we can try to like digest what uncertainty is and what that looks like, but it's truly the next step, right? Like what is the next step you're willing to take and risk for a life that's bigger than what it is right now? A meaningful and valued life. Like what step are you willing to take? And it's not going to feel comfortable necessarily. But we can't lead treatment with wanting to feel great, or certain, right? The goal in treatment is to move forward despite that uncertainty. So I love how you put that, because I think it is about the movement, right? At the end of the day.
No, I love, and folks are noting in the chat, I think, how challenging this is. And first of all, Dan, I'm so sorry for the struggles with OCD. And so many of us here have experienced that and want you to know you're not alone, and there's hope, and we see you and we're with you. And I wish I could give you a jumbo hug through our Zoom screen right now. And also for our friend here who's saying that they feel paralyzed in uncertainty, it can feel like that. It really can. And I never want you to feel like we're minimizing as we talk about it, because it's hard. And I think it is the ultimate, leap of faith in big ways to embrace uncertainty. And so my doctoral research was looking at reimagining ERP as a spiritual practice. And a big part of that was recognizing that the biggest, if we think of a spiritual practice as something challenging across faith traditions that we're doing to reconnect with the divine, then ERP, if we're stopping the worship of OCD in favor of worshiping God, if we're stepping into uncertainty without really knowing exactly what that's going to look like, whoa, that is the ultimate spiritual practice. And as a part of that, I did a lot of research around uncertainty and theologians and what different folks thought about uncertainty. And my favorite quote that I always like to come back to in this conversation that I had to pull up is from Henry Nouwen. And he says that faith is an adventure in the unknown, an adventure in which we learn to trust in the goodness of God. And I really love that. I've always just really loved this idea of faith being an adventure in the unknown, and not necessarily being about the scary side of the unknown, but something that's actually really beautiful. And that's really awesome. And Alan, thank you. So sorry that OCD has hit hard, and we're with you. We're with you. Any other thoughts from this crew on uncertainty and faith before we jump into some conference-y stuff? Oh, Val, you're muted. You're trying to unmute. You can do it.
There we go. Sorry, you guys. It was just recently, while I was reading I love reading other people's stuff, but I came across this quote from the country singer Wyona Judd that her mother, Naomi Judd, used to say, and we know Naomi's story about how she suffered and end up taking her own life. But I love what she said. She said to let the cracks in our armor show through, because that's how the light gets through. Show our cracks in our armor. That's how the light gets through. And sometimes I think we put on this Christian title where we have to be perfect. Put on the armor of faith. That's what it says in the Bible about your helmet, your breast shield of faith, your sword, and all of that. And sometimes I know I've been in that mindset where I have to be like that. But then when I really look at it, where we grow is when we allow ourselves or other people to see we're just like them. We just have different cracks. We just walk in different shoes. But in order for us to get better or feel better, that little light has to have a place to escape. And so that's kind of how I allow myself, when I get into that mindset of I have to be perfect, or what's wrong with my faith, all of those kind of things, I'm going to remember what Naomi Judd said, let it show. Because none of us are perfect. Going back to what Emily said, none of us are God. So that was kind of like my little light bulb moment a couple of weeks ago when I read across that. I'm going to let the cracks in my armor show. That's not to say I'm not going to be working on it, but I'm going to let it show.
We can let it show together. I think that's kind of the whole piece of community is we get to show that together, and we get to work on it together too. And I see Chris and other folks in the chat are really resonating with that, Val.
Yeah, and that's how you build your faith. Yeah. Also too, those cracks will become smaller, and sometimes there'll be a bigger hole in them. But the point is, like you say, to keep moving forward. That's our choice. We have to consciously remember to try as hard as we can to move forward. And like I say, those little tiny steps can turn into big steps.
Beautiful. Thank you, Val.
Yeah, Val, I love that you said that, because I read a quote one time that said, if we bring our strengths to the table, then we don't build connection. But if we bring our brokenness and our weaknesses, that's when we start connecting. And I think that's what Katie and Val's vision, like, for the conference and for the SIG started as, is like, hey, we want you to know that, like, we are all struggling. And then there is the sense of community there when you realize you're not the only one. And if we were all there saying, like, oh, this is my victory, this is what I'm great at, this is how I'm overcoming, like, there's not a sense of connection unless you say, like, me too, like, I'm struggling too. And I love that, Val, how you said, like, when you let your cracks show, that's where connection starts. And I think that's what this conference is about, is saying we are in this together, right? Like, so I love that.
Love. We are in this together. And I look at, like, this just amazing group of women here. And I think, like, the reason that we're all connected is because we advocate and do all of those things. But also the reason we're all connected is because of things that we've struggled with. And I think about things that I've been through, where even I think about a conference, Carolyn, where you and I were standing on the dance floor and talking through my old stuff. And that's connection. And that's what this conference really is all about. It really, really is. And thank you all for just the beautiful comments in the chat. And I also see the comment that OCD has taken over your life, that ERP has helped you immensely. And that's such a beautiful thing too. And that's also really what this conference is about, is coming together in the midst of struggles, but also offering hope that we can step forward together. And that's what I want to spend our last little chunk of time on, is what does this actually look like? So the schedule is not officially live yet, but you're going to get a little sneak peek because you chose. It's been a long day, because you chose to join us here tonight. And I want to talk you through what that schedule is going to look like. And I'm going to go to each of our awesome panelists here to talk a little bit about why some of these different pieces are important. So if you join us on November 19th, which I hope all of you do, because we are so excited to have you, we are going to kick off the day with an awesome interdisciplinary community keynote, which we will release soon, who is on that. But you're going to hear from a group of clinicians and clergy and individuals with OCD, all from different backgrounds, talking with one another about this experience of faith and OCD and the intersection. And then we're going to move into some population panels, which is one of the things that's been so significant about this conference over the last 5 years. It's something we've always had, but it's grown. And that means that we are, let's see. Rachel sent, the program is officially up. Okay, I lied. I'm not giving you a sneak peek. You can actually look at the program. Thank you, Rachel, for correcting me on that. So you can look at it while we talk about it if you'd like to. Rachel, can we drop that in the chat for folks by any chance? Cool. You can look at it. That's fantastic. So scratch everything I just said. So you can take a look at actually our awesome interdisciplinary community keynote of individuals with OCD, clinicians, and clergy, which you'll see is kind of the first thing we do for the day. And then we move into population panels, which has been a really big highlight for us over the years. And this is where you actually get together with a group of mental health professionals to learn from. We have a beginners group and an advanced group. We have a group of faith leaders that will be speaking on a panel, a group of individuals with OCD, a group of family and loved ones, a group of kids and parents. And really the idea is that you go to the group that you identify with. So you can hear from other people who are experiencing what you're experiencing, or hear from other faith leaders who are navigating what you're navigating in your congregations. So you can hear from other clinicians and really learn how to treat OCD. So this is really that second big component of the conference that we really love so much, that we hope you'll check out. And I want to go to Emily. And with the population panels, one of the big components is we have 2 different clinician sessions. We have a beginner and an advanced. And why is it important for clinicians to specifically come to something where they get to talk about treatment for scrupulosity?
Well, I mean, first of all, it's complex. It's hard. Like, let's speak that truth. It is really difficult to treat scrupulosity. It's hard to sit with someone in their darkest moments and help them navigate this uncertainty that we've been talking about and learning to trust their faith. And I think hearing that being culturally competent, knowing about other faiths is so essential to helping others. Like, we can't just go in blind. We have to go in with the knowledge. Now, we don't have to be experts on every religion. Don't hear me say that. But this will provide a foundation, I think, for starting to see individuals with scrupulosity. I think the beauty about the psychology and mental health field is we're always learning. We're forever learners. We're forever growing depending on research and what's coming out. And that's relevant here too, whether you're just entering into this field or you've been in this field for a while but want to start treating scrupulosity. It's a great time to come forward with your weaknesses and what you're struggling with. Maybe treating scrupulosity is hard, and learn from some of the best, some of the people who truly know what they're doing and can help guide you, even on some questions that are tough for you. So I don't know. That's my thought. I'm excited for those panels.
Yeah, I think it's great, and I love that we have kind of the beginners and the advanced, so that you can plug in with kind of where you are in the treatment process with scrupulosity. Carolyn, I'm curious from you too as a clinician, why is it important for folks to come and learn specifically about treating scrupulosity or offering culturally responsive treatment across faiths?
Yeah, I think I love what Emily said about that you don't have to be an expert on all types of religions to be able to treat scrupulosity. I think too, one of the things that has been mentioned by both Katie and Emily is a trust in self. And what I've seen treating scrupulosity is that a lot of times people get stuck because they are afraid of themselves. Okay. They believe that these rigid rituals and rules that they are doing, whether these are mental compulsions, confession, over like lots of praying, all of them, they think they're keeping themselves safe from themselves. And I think when you learn about this from a clinician's perspective, like Katie and Emily said, the OCD treatment is about risking to trust yourself again. And I always tell people there's a risk with that, but it's worth the risk so that you can move forward and that you can live a full life, you know? And so I think that when you, as a clinician, understand that that's really scary for them, and they think that these rigid rules are keeping them safe from themselves because they're afraid of committing a sin, they're afraid of offending the divine in some way or breaking some sacred text that is very important to them. And I think that it's about empowering them to trust not only the divine, but to risk trusting themselves again as well. So
beautiful. Thank you, Carolyn. And with those population panels, I know we also highlighted that there's things for families and loved ones, for kids and parents, but also for individuals with OCD. And Val, I would love you have been a part of that panel with us often this year. Actually, you're going to be with our family and loved ones, which is really important too. So I'm wondering from you, why are both of those important, both for the individual side and the family side to gather with others?
I think for me, it put me in a place where it allowed me to listen to Melvin's side or family members' side to learn and not just to respond. Because sometimes when you're in those relationships and your OCD is flaring up or whatever, I'm not listening. I'm just waiting to respond. You don't know how I feel, those sort of things. So it put me kind of in a different perspective to learn how other people were feeling, being when I listened to other people's stories at the conference is really helpful. And another thing I think why it's important to be together as a group, it allows you to feel inclusive, that you're being heard or seen, that you're feeling supported. And especially when it comes to being people of faith, I think it's so important wherever you fall on that spectrum of faith, whether you're just beginning your walk or you're in the middle of your walk or whatever denomination you are, it's just the feeling of togetherness and everybody not judging. We're all in this kind of together. It feels like a safe place. And I think it's important, like I said, with families to hear each other, because so often we don't. And I know, like I said, I've been a victim and a victimizer, that I just shut down. So that for me is kind of the beauty of it. If we just listen and sit still to hear, then we're all, it'll be a win-win for everybody.
Yeah, listen to hear, really to hear one another.
And not to
Not
respond.
to respond. Yeah, I love that, Val. Thank you.
Mhm.
I hope folks hear that and sign up. Amen. Mary says, absolutely. And Kimberly, I'm so glad that you think the schedule looks amazing. I want to speak to one other piece on there, which is the for faith leaders piece. And this is a piece that's really important and why we want you to, if you are a faith leader, to of course come, but we also want you to invite your clergy across faith traditions. I'll say this piece is really important to me. I am an ordained Christian minister in a Protestant tradition, but I've worked as an interfaith chaplain for a long time in lots of different spaces. And for me, as I have OCD, and I'm very public about the fact that going through my ordination process, I was told not to tell anybody and not to seek treatment. And I was told that I wouldn't get a job or I wouldn't be ordained, and that I was up and coming in the field. And if I let anyone know, that people would look at me differently. And I have lots of thoughts about that. And I often share this at this particular panel with clergy to let them know, one, how to support others with OCD, but also to let them know that if they're experiencing their own mental health struggles, that it's okay and that there's no shame in that and that they are so worthy of seeking treatment and that they can be in faith leadership and seek treatment. Treatment very much saved my life. And when I started to get into work around scrupulosity, I was so surprised that it was not something we were taught in seminary. And gosh, was not in my master's program, was not in doctoral program. It was not in any of my clinical training as a chaplain. I had never heard the word scrupulosity until I got into the OCD community. And that's really problematic because, as we've talked about tonight, often faith leaders are on the front lines and are the ones to really see these things first within their communities and their congregations. So we really hope with this faith leader panel, I really hope that folks can feel seen in their own mental health journeys, but can also be given the skills and tools to recognize scrupulosity in their faith context, to recognize OCD in general in their faith context, and make appropriate referrals, and to offer support without reassurance and without accommodation. So if this is something that you feel your clergy member would benefit from, whether they are a priest or a pastor, a minister, a rabbi, an imam, whatever type of clergy, they are welcome, and we would love to have them. If folks are still looking at your schedules and you're kind of moving through, we then get into interdisciplinary topic talks where folks get to really share across their disciplines, where we have clinicians working with clergy, working with individuals with OCD on different topics that range from spiritually sensitive OCD treatment to self-compassion, to authentic mental health conversations in diverse communities, to diversity in research, to willingness for OCD treatment, to hope, and even to sex and scrupulosity. We have all of these really, really, really important topics that are going to be addressed from different lenses this year. And I think that's so important. And we want you to be a part of that. And then finally, at the bottom of the schedule, you'll see, I keep saying that every part's my favorite part. I guess it all is, because I just really love this conference. But another one of my favorite parts as a part of this whole conference is we close with faith affinity groups, which is so neat. We have this beautiful interfaith day where, by the way, I'll give an asterisk and say this is one of the few places that I have ever seen that has a fully interfaith conference, that has individuals across faith traditions really sharing and connecting with one another, which beyond just thinking about OCD is such a beautiful thing when it comes to diversity and inclusion and belonging. But at the end of the day, we have affinity groups, which is also really important for people to gather with others who share the same faith, who might be having similar experiences, who might have similar obsessions and compulsions, who might be navigating similar cultural dynamics. So we actually have groups that represent Protestant Christianity, Catholicism, Judaism, atheism, and agnosticism, moral scrupulosity, Hinduism, Buddhism, Judaism, and beyond. We have so many different, and Islam. we have so many different faith traditions that will be represented here, where we really want you to be able to gather with a faith leader and a clinician and others of your faith, to be able to connect. And as Val shared so beautifully earlier, really show our cracks and realize that we can step forward and that we're not alone. So that is a little rundown that is not so secret now that you can actually see the schedule. But this is even better, because I'm so glad that you all can look at it and hopefully make the informed and correct decision to definitely attend, because we want to see you there. I would love, as we get ready to close our time together, to go around to our awesome panelists here and ask two things. One is, if somebody's on the fence about going to the conference, what is the reason you would tell them to sign up for the Faith and OCD conference? And two, what are some words of hope you might want to leave folks with tonight? Because we have some folks who have mentioned in the chat that they're struggling, and I think that hope is important. So why attend the conference? Words of hope, and Dr. Emily Bailey.
Me, okay. Okay, why attend the conference? So if I were to try and convince you to attend the conference, I think what I would say would be that this conference feels like a bridge to me, where like these two worlds meet, faith and spirituality and psychology. And I think that's very rare. And I've watched people walk away from this conference who claim to be too spiritual for therapy, and people who were too clinical to go back, or like too, ill to go back to their faith. And they came away and they realized, I don't have to pick. Like, that's an anchor. This is like such an essential conference, because it bridges this gap and creates this experience where you realize you don't have to pick. And I think that would I think I answered both questions at once. Sorry. I think what I would say is hope is like, you don't have to choose between having faith and having your mental health. You don't. And this conference will truly help you navigate that and help you see that others are navigating it at different places in their journey. And you don't have to pick one or the other. You can have a full, beautiful life. And I hope that you decide to not make one choice over the other. I hope instead you choose to go to the conference.
And mic drop. So we can end the live stream right here, but I do want to hear what Carolyn and Val have to share. So Carolyn, I would love to hear, what is your pitch for folks who might be on the fence about attending the Faith and OCD conference? And also, what are your words of hope for tonight?
I think just seeing how the conference has evolved over the past 5 years is incredible, to know where it was in Valerie's vision, and then how Katie put feet to this, but the expansiveness of you. Although we have the program, there are so many details under this that are still yet to be known. The speaker lineup, she has gotten the best of the best in both the clinical and clergy world, as well as people who have amazing inspirational stories. I would just say there's a place for you here. Okay. Like, if you have religious trauma, there's a place for you here. If you are agnostic, atheist, there's a place for you here. If you have existential fears and don't even know if you belong to a faith, there's a place for you here. And so I love what Katie has done in expanding the program in such a way that there is a place for everybody here. So that's my pitch, is that when you go to this conference, you'll be surprised that you will find a place here. And I think for the words of encouragement, I think that when I think about the word encourage, it really literally means to put courage into somebody. And so if you are feeling like you have no courage right now, then you can borrow hope and borrow courage from people at this conference, because this is a place where I have friends on my recent dials that are people I met at these conferences, people that I keep on a touch on a weekly basis, because there are times where I don't have the courage and they have it for me. So this is a place where you can connect with people, and that they can believe and have hope for you, even when you don't feel like you have it for yourself. So I think community is vital in recovery. So
Thank you, Carolyn. Yeah, Carolyn, you met some of your best friends in this faith and OCD community, and it makes my heart so happy. And thank you also what you shared about it growing in the diversity, and just it really, that's that really is my favorite part of it. And it's such an honor to be a part of this work with so many awesome humans, so that everybody can feel seen and have a space. So Val, I would love to hear from you, from your initial vision of the conference. What are your words to folks on why they should attend, and additional words of hope tonight?
I think everybody just said it so wonderfully. It's a place where you can be yourself, not worry about what denomination or faith you are. It's a safe place, and it's a place to have the conversation, the hard conversations, but it's also a place where hopefully you feel heard, included, but also that you learn some things and you learn for yourself that you're worth it. That would be my main reason to encourage you to go to the conference, is that you're worth it. We are all wonderfully and uniquely made. And we have to remember that in our own lives, that there's no brokenness that can't be, well, I shouldn't say there's no brokenness. There's no mistakes in who you are. And like I said, we don't get to choose what cross we get to carry, but we get to choose how we can carry it and who we can lean on. And for all of us, I know for me, my hope still lies in him. These are pluses, getting to know people and to love people and to hear people. It's been humbling to realize I don't have all the answers. I don't have all the answers when it comes to faith, religion, and all of those things. But none of that matters in this spot because, like I said, we are indeed our brother's keeper. And that's how it feels. So come to the conference. Be part of the flock.
Thank you so much, Val. Beautiful,
Because
beautiful.
Hope is always available too. Yeah.
I love that was kind of the theme that went through everyone tonight, is that hope and that holding hope for one another. Just so beautiful. So for anyone listening tonight, we would love, oh, no, go ahead, Val.
Oh, no. I wasn't thinking anything. I was probably thinking out loud.
Oh, okay. Well, everything you said was beautiful. And same with Carolyn and Emily. And it's been such a gift to have everyone here tonight, and to share with us in the chat. And we really, really, really do hope you attend the conference with us, so that we can be in community and hold hope alongside one another. I always like to say for me, I think there was a point in my life with my OCD where I felt like my entire life was in pieces and shattered on the floor. And I wanted so badly to go back to the life I had before, or to be the person that I was before that. And that isn't exactly what happened. And yet I believe from a faith perspective that those pieces went back together in a different way, but in a way that was even more beautiful than to begin with. And I believe that was a part of my faith and a part of my treatment. I'm so just grateful for that. And I hope that for folks here who kind of feel broken, as Val said, or see those pieces on the floor, that you'll come and hold hope with us, and that you'll recognize that sometimes through treatment, through community, through faith, through stepping forward, those pieces can go back together in ways that we couldn't have even imagined. And I am so incredibly grateful for all of the people who helped me step forward into that and held hope for me on the journey. And we want to do the same for all of you. So before I get too emotional here, I am gonna say that announcement wise, we are so grateful that y'all were here tonight, and we do want to note that the IOCDF is a donor-supported nonprofit organization. So please consider making a donation at iocdf.org/donate. If this live stream was meaningful to you, so that we can continue to have awesome events like this, where we get to come together in community virtually with folks all around the world. We also want to note that there is awesome virtual programming happening here all of the time. And you can come right back here tomorrow at 12 p.m. Eastern, where Chris Tronston is going to be talking with Dr. Jennifer Siegel, a psychiatrist, on OCD and medication, which is something we get a lot of requests about. So if you have questions, please tune into that. I know that they would love to have you. And Mary, thank you for the kind words. You just are absolutely the best. Love to everyone. And as we close out, my final plea to you is please join us on November 19th so that you can be a part of this conversation, because this conference is all about being in community together. So please visit iocdf.org/faithcon to register. We can't wait to be with you there. And in the meantime, we will be holding hope for you. We'll see y'all next time.
Love you, ladies.
Love you.